everyone, my name is Paul, and today I'm installing LED dashboard lights in this 1998 Toyota Tacoma.
Before we start, let's gather up some tools. A 10mm socket, some small pliers, and a pair of screwdrivers are all you need. Also get a small pick if you can. Start by pulling the climate control knobs off. I'm using a small hook to pull the trim panel straight out. If you grab it where the green circles are, it's easy. And now we have access to the climate control light bulbs. Carefully grab the incandescent bulbs and pull straight out. They're glass, so they can break. I'm installing white T5 LED light bulbs instead. LED bulbs require the polarity to be correct, so if it doesn't turn on, rotate 180 degrees and try again. The dashboard is a bit harder to work on. Remove 2 screws from the trim panel and pull it toward you to release the upper snaps. That's all, just leave it. This part doesn't have to come out. The trim under the steering column comes out next. Remove the 4 bolts with a 10mm socket and use a Phillips screwdriver for the screw. With all the bolts out, pull the panel straight out to unsnap it. Leave the hood release connected and lay the panel on the floor. Pull out the ignition lock trim, then hang it down by the wire. Remove 1 screw from the dashboard trim to the left of the steering column, then take out the screw in the middle of the steering column trim. Insert the key so you can turn the steering wheel. The steering column cover has 2 more screws holding it on, 1 on each side. With the screws out, pull the lower trim down, then pull the upper trim straight up to remove it. 2 more screws hold the dashboard trim. Take them out. Pull the right side of the trim toward you to release it, then the left side. Push the top part down. Stick your hand behind the trim and push up on the vent to release it from the duct in the dashboard. Pull the right side of the instrument cluster trim out from behind the radio trim and remember to unplug the hazard flasher switch. Pull the trim out a little bit. It's almost ready to come out. Unplug the headlight dimmer switch. Now the plastic trim comes out. 4 screws hold the gauges in place. Use a magnet to help you pull the screws out of the holes. Pull the gauges out and tip them up. You can unplug all the connectors and take it out of the car, but you don't need to. Just rest the gauges between the dash and the steering wheel. Turn the 2 green light bulb sockets 90 degrees left to remove them from the circuit board. Remember the plastic trim? Let's bring that back over here. Turn the dimmer all the way clockwise for maximum brightness and plug in the headlight dimmer switch. Now turn on the headlights, or at least just the park lights. You'll need 2 194 light bulbs. 168 is the same size, but typically is a higher wattage and is used for outside marker lights instead of the interior. Now you know. Anyway, you can get these lights pretty much anywhere like eBay or Amazon. I recommend checking out the reviews a bit to make sure your $2 bag of 30 LEDs doesn't just burn out on day 1. Swap the bulbs and continue. Install the socket and give it a quarter turn clockwise. If the bulb doesn't light up, take the socket out, rotate it 180 degrees, and try again. Turn the lights on and off a couple times to make sure both instrument cluster bulbs come on and both climate control lights work. Now the gauges are ready to go back in. Tip them to go in, then put 4 Phillips head screws back in. The dashboard trim is going back in next. Make sure the vent is going into the dash on the left side and you have the middle tucked under the top of the dashboard. Before inserting the trim piece completely, remember to plug in the hazard flasher switch and the headlight dimmer switch. Tuck the dashboard trim behind the radio trim, then snap the left side back into place. Install the ignition switch plastic trim. It also tucks behind the radio trim panel. Now you can push the radio trim into place. The upper steering column trim has 1 snap in the center. Make sure to line it up with the hole in the metal bracket. Snap the lower trim into the upper trim on both sides. Remember to reinstall the screws on each side of the steering wheel. 1 more screw holds the lower trim piece onto the column. The lower dashboard trim snaps into place next. Install 1 Phillips head screw and 4 bolts. The bolts are M6 by 1.0 thread pitch in case you lost one. Install the 2 screws holding the instrument cluster trim. Don't forget the screws holding the radio trim. Now the climate control bezel goes back on. Install the AC button and push the knobs back into place. Let's do a comparison. These are the original light bulbs. They have a yellowish green color and the dimmer works perfectly. The LEDs come on suddenly at 1/4 brightness and have less adjustment. They are also more bright and they have more green than the old lights. If you look closely at the climate controls, some areas are yellow. The old incandescent light bulbs burned the plastic over time and it changed colors. Let's pull this old bezel back out of the truck. I ordered a new bezel from ToyotaPartsDeal.com and swapped it. Just pull the old panel straight out, then snap the new one back in place. Now we have a clean white light coming out of the bezel with no yellow spots. That's much better. I like the darker green color on the gauges too.
Replacing your dashboard lights with LED is a cheap and easy way to make your truck look a little bit better. If you're new here, be sure to check out my other car repair videos. I have an entire repair series on the 1997 Toyota RAV4, and I'll be making a few more videos about this truck. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.